After this wonderful talk by Dr. Haripriya, most of you will have your heart in your mouth, and I'll keep it a little easy on you so that you can sit back and relax. So I'll be speaking on hooks and rings in small people and IFIS. I have a financial interest in the BX People Expander by virtue of my holdings and management devices, and I acknowledge the contribution of Dr. Deepak Magur in lending his video. Now, I would like you to all to ask yourself, if you have a cataract and a non-dilating 4 mm pupil and a very skilled surgeon is operating, one among us over here, what would you prefer? The surgeon use only skill and no device, or the surgeon use pupil device and skill? I guess availability and cost both are not an issue. So most of us would like to be safe than sorry. Now, can we use preoperative pupil dilation as a predictor of IFIS? Well, this was a paper in 2011 by Alessandro Casaccio and co-workers. The conclusion was for a pupil 7 mm or smaller, the risk of IFIS existed regardless of alpha blocker treatment. Is there a risk of IFIS in India? Some people tend to ignore that. Well, from this study by Dr. Shilpa Goel and co-authors, it was found that the risk of tamsulosin intake and IFIS are both higher in India. And to add to tamsulosin and alfuzosin, hypertension was an important risk factor. That's a large number of our patients. Now, that's the long list of drugs that can cause IFIS, and of course, systemic conditions as common as hypertension, diabetes, chronic heart failure. So no amount of history taking can prevent surprises. And intraoperative miosis is unpredictable. Let's come to terms with that. So when we use iris hooks, our pupil expanders, we need to have a disciplined approach. We need to consider that every eye is a potential IFIS candidate. So we need to reduce the threshold for using a pupil device, and we need to keep a reasonable stock handy always. Viscoelastic injection, where and how, I'll be talking about that. We need to test and distinguish the elastic from the non-elastic pupil. That has a significance. We'll come to that again in detail. We need to understand the choice of pupil device, which would depend on the elasticity of the pupil mostly, and how you wish to tear the rigid pupil. And how big do you want the pupil to be? I mean, how much of the cataract we want to see is different, and how much is required to do a surgery is what we should be bothered about. And of course, we should know the relevance of the pupil devices and IFIS. Specific iris hooks and pupil expander tips is something I'm going to talk about. So when and how much of viscoelastic do we use, whether we use iris hooks or pupil expanders? Now, if we use viscoelastic in front of the iris, we tend to plaster the iris to the lens cap, so that leaves no space for the iris hooks or the pupil expander. That's counterproductive to our cause. So we need to inject viscoelastic under the pupil margin so that we can lift off that pupil margin slightly, and that makes enough space for the iris hooks or the pupil expander. The slight bowing of the anterior chamber helps in tucking the flanges of the pupil expander or the iris hooks. Overfilling of the anterior chamber just pushes the iris against the lens capsule, and so we need to inject viscoelastic under the pupil margin. Now, this paper by David Chang and John Campbell told us about IFIS. Unlike non-elastic myotic pupils, the IFIS pupil immediately snaps back to its original shape. So there is a matter of elasticity which is involved. So small pupils are of two types, elastic or non-elastic. We must get that concept very clear. An elastic pupil is like a rubber band. It's stretchable. So any pupil expander would work. The rigid pupil is like a string. So it's not stretchable. It needs to be torn. So it needs a strong or bulky expander or Kuglen hooks. So we need to check the elasticity or the rigidity of the pupil before we start. We inject a bit of BSS from the side port, and you see that pupil momentarily dilates, and that's a side indicator that this is an elastic pupil. If it weren't, it wouldn't dilate. If it's a rigid pupil, it wouldn't budge. Look at this one. You got fibrosis of the pupil margin, and this is not going to budge. Try as much as you may. So this needs to be torn with two arms. Either you use two Kuglen hooks or you use a bulky pupil device like the Malyugin or other devices. So that's going to tear that pupil, and eventually you need to tear that sphincter. So that is before stretch and after stretch. So mechanical dilatation of the pupil, we have IFIS is always an elastic pupil. So if a pupil was dilated when we started and it came down on us, it too is an elastic pupil. There is no doubt about that. So pupil stretching is not required, as neither is it effective. But as it's a rigid or fibrotic pupil, controlled stretching before using an expander is very effective. Whether you use iris hooks or expanders, it doesn't matter. So we have iris retractors, we have the Malyugin ring, we have the BX, we have some other pupil expanders too. So what matters most is the elasticity of the pupil and not the size. Now, how big do you want the pupil to be? Aren't we skilled enough to perform phaco through a 5.5 pupil, which will not get smaller? Or most of us would take up a 5.5 pupil if we are sure that it won't get smaller. So why do you want to dilate the pupil to more than 5.5 with a device? That would keep the pupil cosmetically good. And in fact, optically also, it's an advantage. So even with iris hooks, do not be tempted to make it larger than 5.5. Now let's see if the BHEX can do this work. So this is a rigid pupil by Dr. Deepak Megur. Now inject viscoelastic, tuck the first flange. Once you've done that stretch, you could use the BHEX very easily. This is a rigid pupil. It's a very hard cataract. So it's not that the hard cataract requires a large pupil. As long as, what's happened? Well, stop, yeah. So as long as you can chop it into small fragments, that it does very well. You can use it for any hard cataract, and a 5.5 pupil is good enough. So now we come to the question often asked is, which would be better, iris hooks or any particular pupil expander? Now, so which is the best device? So let's take a close look. Couple of my surgeries. This is a case where I used iris hooks. Now, before I could finish the capsulorhexis, I had iris prolapse of the main wound. It was a mess. The iris was frayed. I was using iris hooks. So there is no sure shot. Now I am struggling with the iris over there. As I insert that phaco probe, I'm afraid that it would catch the iris and cause a dialysis. So I had to disengage it. But once the phaco probe has passed the wound, I'm happy. Iris is prolapsing to the side port also, reposited. You can see that sail-like bowing of that iris. And that's again how I disengage that iris from that prolapsed iris from the wound. Again, when I hydrate those wounds, the iris prolapses. So now let's see, I use the BHEX pupil expander. Now, here, this is I'm being a toric IOL in a hypertensive patient, short eye, shallow antechamber. I had a hint of IFS, so I used the BHEX in advance. Look at what happened. There was no guarantee that they'll not have any iris prolapse. This iris is prolapsing through the side port and through the main incision. So this is a candidate for IFS. So whatever device you use really does not matter. The flow bioparameters and other things apart, it is the severity of the IFS which is in question. That is what causes the problem. Yes, of course, if you have a device like BHEX, you can pull it out through the side port, and that is a huge advantage in an IFS case. So in IFS, we have two components, the miosis and the iris prolapse. So if you look at the miosis component, iris hooks and pupil expanders both provide a constant pupil size, which allows good visibility for safe phacoemulsification. That's that. So all devices will allow you that good visibility. When it comes to iris prolapse, actually no device helps. Iris prolapse depends on the IFS severity and the pathological damage to the iris, stroma, and muscles. So we should not give any credit to the pupil device when you don't have iris prolapse. It's just lower grade IFS. So you may get away with a particular device in a case, and in the next case, you may not get away. So that has no significance. So a favorable pupil device in IFS would be one which requires small incisions, has thin vertical profile, and can exit. Minu, if you can permit me, I think we've got enough time. I can take another couple of minutes. So iris hooks and
please go on.
Well suited. So this is the BHEX which you can remove through a 1 mm side port, and it's invaluable when we have iris prolapse or the AC is shallow. Let's look at this. So you just need to hold one of the flanges at the notch flange junction and just disengage it and draw it out. No device can do this, and that is a huge plus. So let's come to a few iris hooks tips. I'd always like to make the side ports. I have not done iris hooks for a very long time. These are very old videos. So we leave a conjunctival mark at the incision, saves us a lot of embarrassment because often we can't find it. So that small conjunctival mark is invaluable. So before we inject the iris hook, we need to retract that stopper far enough, and then we hook the iris, and we do not want to over retract and then advance that stopper. It's simple. And then we make the phaco incision so that we are very safe. So, and one thing with iris hooks, we tend to get a bit carried away. We need to keep that capsulorhexis size in control. And we need to remember that all the pupil margin is antiflex and actually at a plane anterior to what normally it is. It's at the limbal plane. So all our devices are going to get stuck over there. We need to be mindful of that. Now, when we remove the iris hooks, we just need to hold that stopper, advance that iris hook, turn it. It's got disengaged, and just pull it out. It momentarily straightens, and it's very simple. Iris hooks are wonderful devices. We've been using them for many years. If you're comfortable with iris hooks, that's the best device. Now, this is a rhomboid pupil. I think the only case I did, and it's a very bad video. It's a very old one taken from a VHS. So the poor quality. Now let's look at a few pearls and pitfalls. Now this is a rigid small pupil and I was using iris hooks. I was not mindful. So I retracted on the pupil to one side. I did not do a stretch. And the timer can please relax.
Raj, please don't on the timer. We will conclude on time. Don't worry.
So
yes, sir.
now we can avoid the capsulorhexis by just tenting that pupil margin with the second instrument and hooking that pupil margin. That is a very sure way of avoiding the capsulorhexis. That's a useful tip you can use anytime, especially in a crisis. After the capsulorhexis, you really don't want to hold that capsulorhexis margin. So the second instrument over there can just tent up the pupil margin and you'll be very clear. And thereafter, you can get all the other hooks in place because you got one tent in one place. There's few disadvantages, more theoretical maybe. There is a tendency for over retraction. There's a risk of infection, but I'm more concerned about the wasted spaces in the corner. See, those spaces are really not where we have actually retracted and is not serving any purpose. It's that central 5.5 millimeters or 6 millimeters where we're going to work. The rest is wasted space and it's not serving any useful purpose. And it can lead to marks and cosmetic problems. A little bit of sphincter anomaly can lead to glare. Now, let's look at the Malugin ring. Actually, they have the gaps. All other devices have the gaps on the side. So when you're using a top view from the microscope, you can engage the capsulorhexis margin. That would be a disaster. Whether the BX, the notches are looking at you, you're facing it, you're in full control as you engage the pupil margin. So you do not engage the capsulorhexis margin. Now, here, this is a case where the people came down on me during the case. And this is a hard half cataract that I have left, heminucleus that is left. So I chose to use the BHEX. So what I'm doing is I'm going to now inject viscoelastic under the pupil margin over the capsulorhexis rim and create that space for my device. And then take the leading, just keep it leading flange and tuck it under the pupil margin. There goes the flush flange. As we tuck it under the pupil margin, we draw it to the periphery. So we're absolutely sure that we have not engaged the capsulorhexis margin. And even if we do, we are doing it under direct visibility. We can just retract a little and again disengage and go. So you can always push it to the periphery. And as you carry it to the periphery, you have an instant confirmation that you have not engaged the capsulorhexis margin. Once you have that 5.5 pupil, you can go ahead and finish off that surgery. It's child's play after that. So we are back to your comfort zone. So my choice of pupil expander intraoperative miosis would be either iris hooks or BX. And in case of a subluxated cataract, my choice would always be iris hooks. Now, what iris hooks can do is they can offer, they can asymmetrically expand the pupil in clock hours of interest. That's what we do. Well, if you saw Dr. Haripriya's videos, I mean, if you have a small pupil and you're dealing that kind of subtype, you want to concentrate on certain quadrants. So you would like selective dilatation in some places, and that can be offered only with iris hooks. If you're interested in reading more about the BHEX, you could download this document at medinvendevices.com, the subpage ophthalmic surgeon. It's got videos, links, which are relevant to the text that is being discussed. And you could read a little more on phacoemulsification in small people at eophtha.com. Thank you very much for your kind attention. And thank you, Minu, once again for this wonderful opportunity.